Well, hello, Metro Life family. Thanks for logging on tonight. And as you know, we are giving you tonight, and we're going to give you our vision and building update. We're going to just really give you a ton of information. And so I want to make sure that everybody who's logging on and has an opportunity to be with us will join us here soon. So we want to take an opportunity to give everybody a chance to log on. I know there are some who are going to be catching this after the fact, so on replay, but we want to wait. We're going to wait about 2 or 3 minutes uh, before we actually get started, because I want to make sure that everybody that can join us or is planning to join us live has the opportunity to, get with us from the get-go, so to speak. Hope you're doing good. Thank you for being with us tonight. Looking forward to being able to share some information with you. God is good, and he's doing some good things. And so it's really cool to have you here this evening. Hope that all of the audio and video is working well. And so we're just going to give it a minute. And in the event, now you're going to hear me repeat this, but in the event that you're one of our extended church family members, a member of our online faith community, and you're not part of the local Metro Life Church congregation in Largo, Pinellas County, the Tampa Bay area, then just tonight's going to be a little different. But we thank you for being part of our family and for connecting with us. And so just hang in there with us for the next 30, 45 minutes or so, and it's going to be good. So it's 7:31. We're going to wait until, well, I guess it's 7:32 now. We're going to wait another minute or so, again, so we want everybody up to speed. And this is going to be archived just like a regular iChurch session. So this information will be accessible anytime on YouTube. We're going to leave it up so that everyone has access to it. And just looking forward to being able to share some information with you this evening. I hope your week's off to a good start. And put a bug in your ear, and then I'll remind you again at the end of it, for our local Metro Life family, this Sunday at the Largo Central Park, or Central Park of Largo. I always get that inverted, so who knows, but you know the park we're talking about. We are at Shelter One for our picnic, our Labor Day picnic. Come bring a side dish. The church is providing hamburgers and hot dogs, so anything you want, food for your family and one other guest. Also, want to let you know, we're going to be sending out a reminder about this, but please make sure to bring some lawn chairs. The space that we have, the tables we have it's one shelter. So the more seats you bring, a lawn chair, the more comfortable you're going to be. So we will remind you about that. We're going to send out some information to you tomorrow. So we'll put a bug in your ear about that. Listen, it's 7:33. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and get started. So just as a reminder, what we're doing tonight, for those of you who, again, maybe are not part of our local congregation, tonight we are not doing our Bible study, our typical iChurch teaching session. We will reboot that again next Wednesday night. Next Wednesday night at 7:30, we're going to be doing our regular our time in the Word on Wednesdays for iChurch. But tonight, we have been announcing in the local house that we have want to give you a building update and a vision update. And so as we get started, I want to throw out a term. As you hear us, as we go through this process now, you're going to hear me using the term vision update, vision program, vision campaign, whatever. Tonight is about sharing vision and launching forward in a new season of vision as we kind of revisit and recap where we've been as a church family for the last 9 months or so, 9 or 10 months. And so now where we are headed. So thank you so much for being here this evening. For those of you in our local church family, what you may not know is that here on iChurch and through social media and through our podcast, via the website at metrolifechurch.us, we have a number of extended family members. There are different cities, different parts of the country. In fact, we have friends and partners literally in other countries that what you may not know, they log on here. They're connected to this ministry, and they are a part of the extended family of Metro Life Church. And they're financial partners, prayer partners, committed, faithful supporters. And so we have some of you who are watching tonight, and I want to include you in this. So don't log off. Stay tuned. We're going to share some information about what God's doing locally with us, because it's going to affect you as well. So as you know, let me just recap. As you know, we have been, since the beginning of this year, at the event hall at 126th Avenue and frontage road there at the Oak Leaf Center in Largo. And let me, before we get into where we are right now, I want to just take a moment to recap kind of what our journey has been, what our process has been. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to inform you about why we are where we are, why we're headed where we're headed, how we've got here, and what have we been doing behind the scenes. As you know, I have not wanted to, as you've heard me say a couple times, I've not inundated you with information about every property we've looked at or what may be emerging or what may be closing, because I have not wanted for us as a family, church family, to ride a roller coaster concerning a building. Let me share my pastor's heart for a moment. I have been very concerned, not troubled, but concerned as a pastor for the fact that the transition we went through at the end of last year with the Lyceum and having to move. I realized that was a heavy pill to swallow. And so moving into this year, one of the things I've not wanted to do, I've not wanted to overpromise and underdeliver concerning a building. I felt like it was the wisdom of God to do our due diligence behind the scenes and just love and serve and be the church and create an environment on Sundays for ministry, for God to speak, for the Spirit to move, and for people to be touched, for our congregation to be strengthened, to be healed, and to move forward in the timing of God and in the wisdom of God. So that's one of the reasons why I have not talked a lot overtly about all of the things we've been doing behind the scenes. So as you know, just to remind you, we were looking at property at 110th Avenue, and that fell through. God closed that door because he knew we were going to experience the financial situation, if you remember, at the Lyceum, where they did not give us back a major portion of the monies. They withheld $30,000 of the $45,000 that they had told us that they were giving us back, that had been basically as deposit monies. So we had been, when we were looking at the 110th Avenue location in December and thought we were moving there, the $45,000 that we thought we were getting back, we were allocating to that project to build it out. So as we go through this tonight, I'm going to talk to you about specifics, things that we have to do to be able to configure a building that's a non-church building to be able to be a house of worship, a ministry center. So as you remember that, basically God opened the door at the event hall, and we have been there since January, and we've been looking the entire time, but God has just touched my heart back in the early part of the year, said, talk to the people at the event hall. Bear with me, I'm getting a message. One of our people are needing some real-time information, wanting to know if we're on here, so bear with me. Okay. All right, bear with me. Yes, we are live now. Well, there we go. So, thank you for your patience. That's one of our church family members that wanted to make sure we were still logging on. So apparently they weren't viewing. So I had to get that information, let them know we are. So nevertheless, God opened that door. And as we were going through the process, it felt, the Lord, it kind of touched my heart that our building search would be a bit of a process, that it would be okay, but that we needed a place to settle for a season, to kind of settle down and be consistent. So as you remember, God opened the door at the event hall. And the reason that is interesting to me is because I've told you before, we wanted to be centrally located because we are a regional church. I would take you back to when we were still at the Lyceum, shortly after I became your pastor, and we were talking about vision late November, early December, I mentioned to you that God had touched my heart about the fact that we had always been a regional church, and as He moves us forward, our mantle is to be regional. We are international, you know that, with the various ministries that we're partnered with around the world. But as it relates to the local church, we are a regional, we're not a community church. And so the Lord spoke to my heart. If you remember, I mentioned that we were to think regionally. And I shared that with our congregation one Sunday morning. So all that being said, the only door that opened was at the event hall in Largo, which frankly was a little farther west than we were looking. We spent a lot of time looking St. Pete, Northeast St. Pete, like 4th Street and Gandy over to Highway 19. There are a ton of development up in that area, all the way up to the Ulmerton Road, Feather Sound, because we're looking for space that gives us present need as well as the ability to grow. We want to be in a growth region, as well as easy access with major roads, because we have so many people from so many different directions. Let me just name off a few communities. We have a family from Bradenton. Sam and Grace Izzo and their children are from Bradenton down in Manatee County. We have several Hillsborough County families, as you well know. We have people that come from all over Pinellas, from South St. Pete all the way up to Clearwater, Newport Richey, and all points in between. So I was really looking for that area, and every door we pursued at that time and even to now, everything we've looked at, every door would close. And so the Lord said, just stay here at the event hall, and when it's time, the right doors will open. So we've settled with that, and we've continued looking. So here's the interesting thing about the timing of God. We were notified by the event hall that as of December 31st, we could no longer be there. So if we had not found a place to move to permanently that we could call our own by December 31st, we were going to have to make another interim move. So we just found that out within the last month or so and have been continuing to look. And so over the last probably 5, maybe 6 weeks, we have found a landlord that is willing to negotiate with us, and we are actually negotiating a lease with them right now. In fact, I actually got my eyes on the actual lease today, and I'll share with you the information and details about where that is, what that is, all of that in just a few moments. So we are keying in, we are zeroing in on a specific property. But I mentioned the event hall and 126th Avenue for a reason. And so let me now walk you back through what we've been experiencing and learning over the last 8 or 9 months. As you know, when I came in here at the church at the tail end of last year, we were under the gun to find property. And so we ended up at the event hall as a plan B. And so myself, Judy, and a couple of other, at that time, commercial realtors that we were dealing with and working with that were trying to help us were pounding the pavement. We were looking, all options were on the table. We weren't saying no to any community, basically south of Ulmerton Road, all the way to basically to Central Avenue where the hub is. We were looking, and from, pretty central in anywhere in Pinellas County and all of those areas. We didn't want to be up north of Ulmerton. We didn't want to get in Clearwater or Safety Harbor up in that area. And we didn't want to get so far south that we would hinder our ability to be a regional church. So it just so happened that every door closed, we ended up at the event hall. Since then, we have continued to look in all of the areas that I mentioned to you. And I can tell you tonight that whether it's through the commercial realtors, through what the research that Judy would do, or the volume of time that I was spending on it looking, we kept hearing consistently over and over and over that property owners don't want to lease to churches. As you well know, but I'll state it at this point, we are not in a position right now to buy a church, to buy a building. And as a result of all of our looking, there are no churches that are available for lease in Pinellas County, to rent or to lease. We found one, frankly, in the last 6 months that's on the market for sale, and it's in really bad shape. It would take it would take tens of thousands of dollars just to modernize it and make it look decent, and it's still not in a great area for growth. So that just is not an option. So where we are is we're looking for commercial property that we can lease for 3 to 5 years that will give us stability, room to grow, while we build our congregation and build the finances to, in the long term, get our hands on our own property that we can purchase. And so that's the long-term vision. That's what we're believing God for. So around the first of the year, Michelle Chandler, you'll know Michelle in our church, she connected with our church, and Michelle is a real estate agent, and she is phenomenal. And I want to tell you that we were having really no success with the 2 other commercial realtors that were trying to help us. And so talked to Michelle. Michelle was more than willing to do anything she could to help us. And she has really taken this project on. And since February, she and I have walked a number of properties. She has reached out on our behalf to a number of landowners or potential landlords, property management companies, and she has worked very hard on our behalf. And frankly, God has used her knowledge of the market, her expertise as a real estate agent, and in the ins and outs and knowings of that, to help us out. God gave us an ally and an asset in Michelle. So I warned her I was going to throw her some props tonight. So Michelle has been a real blessing to us, and frankly, God has used her to help educate us. But it's been a process. It's been quite a process. And through that process, one of the big things we've learned, whether you're looking at retail space, trying to go into a shopping center somewhere and take over open space to convert it into a church to use it, you're looking at other commercial space like what's called flex space, or office, warehouse, commercial space that is zoned for houses of worship. That's another issue. When you can't just sign a lease, you have to have, whatever city it's in, you have to have the proper zoning permits to be able, because we're not a traditional business, we have to be able to be zoned for general assembly, which means that you can worship there. We can turn that space into a church. And some municipalities won't allow you to do that without going through a public hearing that's 90 days out. So there are a lot of hurdles we've had to jump, or I'm going to put it this way. We've watched God open and close doors. And so we have had a number of potential landlords or property owners, property management companies that through this process of time, as we've been reaching out to them, that have told us they don't lease to churches. So we watched, again, remember I mentioned I wanted to be in the Northeast St. Pete area because of proximity, centrality, and major highway access in and out. Because one of my concerns is, being a regional church, I've not wanted to alienate or get too far one way or another, east, west, north, or south, from the centrality of where we are, so that I don't want the road system. I'm from Hillsborough County, and it's been a real shock to me, a real eye-opener to learn just how jammed up the traffic is in Pinellas County. And so that's been a consideration for me, because I've not wanted to create an issue for those of you that already have to come quite a ways. So anyway, what we've done is we have just pounded the pavement. Michelle has worked very hard. Judy's research, she's worked hard on it. I've worked on it. And we've just found a lot of doors that have closed. And so here are some things that we have to consider about any potential property. First of all, we're not in a position to buy, so we have to find somebody that's willing to lease to us on a 3-year term. Most landlords want a 5-year term. The reason we want a 3-year term is because we don't want to lock ourselves in 5 years in a place that can fit our current congregation, as well as maybe doubling in size, but not being able to grow beyond that. And so that being said, we've been locked in on really 3 years. with an option of, okay, if new space opens up next to where we're leasing, we can take that over. We have room to enlarge. If at the end of the halfway through or towards the end of the 3-year lease, we like where we are and we've got room to enlarge, we have a 1 or 2 year option. We can extend the lease out. So it's not like we're going through a cycle of moving all over again, but it gives us options. It gives us options. 2 other real practical issues when you're looking at property: restrooms. How many restroom facilities are there? It costs a minimum of between $10,000 and $15,000, from what I've been told, to build one handicap compliant bathroom space. So if we're talking about looking at a building that checks all the boxes except we don't have enough bathrooms, well, then we're looking at a ton of money to build a bathroom and a lot of work and permitting, and it's a red tape nightmare. So some properties we've looked at, that's been a deal breaker. Other properties, it's been parking's been a deal breaker. Retail spaces, let me speak to this. We are not looking into retail spaces, and here's why. A majority of retail strip mall centers won't lease to churches because of parking. Churches require a lot of parking. And so what happens is they have other tenants that need parking and they don't want to compete with parking. The reason that the owner of the 110th Avenue property back in December was willing to lease to us was because the 50% of his properties were empty. And he needed to fill the space because he was dealing with, when they elevated US 19, it cut off traffic flow into his building, and a lot of businesses went out of business and left. So he was kind of really incentivized, if you will, to get that property leased. So he had a ton of parking, and that would have not been an issue there. But the vast majority of retail or strip centers, strip mall type places, won't lease to churches to begin with. Then when you find the ones that do, generally speaking, they're smaller. The amount of space that's available is tight. And so we could move in there, but we'd be locked into a community where we're small in terms of the space we're in. And that would hinder us from being, we would end up becoming more of a community church than a regional church, and it would hinder our ability to grow. Because one of our challenges that we have to strike a balance with is meeting our current level of congregation size, and not just sanctuary seating, but kids church. We want to be able to develop youth ministry. We've got to have space for that. Nursery, restrooms, common area space where we can gather as a church family for social events. You got to have administrative offices. What we're doing is consolidating the offices on Central Avenue. We'll be vacating those and consolidating, so our administrative functions will now be where our worship center campus is. The great thing about that is now we're able to do a whole lot more on different times of the week in terms of building smaller connections that help us to grow as a congregation. But the balance is, how do we find enough space without busting our budget that not only meets our current size and congregation size, but gives us room to grow in all of those areas I just mentioned? And so checking those boxes: budget, potential for growth, meaning the number of square footage that's available that we're moving into, being in a location that's a good growth area, keeping central, parking, and restrooms. Those things all have to come together. And so through this process we've been through, we've talked to a lot of people that have either said we won't lease to churches, or we've got property, we've looked at it, and one of those key 4 elements I just mentioned would become a deal breaker. So doors closed, doors closed, doors closed. We spent the last 9 months, and really Michelle can speak to this because she's done a lot of the legwork, a lot of the the behind the scenes legwork of reaching out to people on our behalf to inquire about the availability of their space. And so she can confirm to you what I'm telling you this evening, that there are just a lot of things that would become a deal breaker as we begin to investigate property. So it's not been discouraging, it's just been reality. So we've learned what the marketplace is. And I wanted to take the first portion of our time together this evening to share with you the backstory of what does the commercial real estate market for churches like ours, what does it look like in Pinellas County? What are the dynamics that we are dealing with as a church family to be able to get in a permanent situation? Why we're not buying something right now, why we're not reaching to buy something right now, and why we're looking at creative space as opposed to traditional church building. That's just, there just aren't out there. So here's where we are. All of that being said, the last, I guess, probably 5 to 6 weeks, we have been looking at a commercial property. It's part of a business park at the corner of 126th Avenue and Starkey Road. It's 5 minutes to 7 minutes, depending on if you hit every traffic light, west of where we already are on at the event hall. It's literally 126th Avenue is the east-west road where the Oak Leaf Center, where we meet now, is. 3 lights west of that is Starkey Road. At the corner of 126th and Starkey, there is a large office development. And it's originally, just be straight up with you, it's farther west than I was wanting to be originally. But if you think about all the backstory I just gave you, then, and this is why I wanted to share that with you, every door, east and south, and we looked at a lot and we've called a lot of places in those areas, had closed on us. And so practically speaking, we're basically 5 minutes west of where we already are right now on Sunday morning. So it's a little bit west, but it's very close to where we already are. And when you, so literally it's 1 block south of Ulmerton Road at the light there at 126th Avenue at the corner. And it's literally 30 seconds to a minute drive north of Bryan Dairy Road to the south. And so that's the area that we are looking at negotiating a lease on. So now let me give you the details about the building, about the options and opportunities there, the monies or situation. Where are we financially? Can we do it? What do we need to do? So let me now shift to that part of the information that I want to give you. So we are, one of the things that's attractive about this particular facility is it gives us 6,975 square feet of inhabitable space. We frankly, if we had gone at 110th Avenue, that was only 5,000 square feet. This gives us 1,975 more square feet. So we have a lot more room to grow. With the way it is set up, we will have room for a 220 seat sanctuary. Okay. We've done the math, done the walk through it. Michelle will tell you we've walked through it several times. I know she's walked through it in addition to kind of keep going back over some things. We've gone through and literally measured and taken really done a lot of due diligence with this location. And so in the sanctuary side of it, we can accommodate 220 seats. Now that gives us room to double, more than double immediately what our congregation size is on Sunday morning. Okay, so we have room to grow. This is a 3-year lease, by the way, and this particular landowner, property owner, has a lot more space. So we grow and need more space. Options are there without us having to move to another area. So if God opens up that down the road, then that infrastructure is already in place. So, but in addition to the sanctuary, we have office space. We have a good area for what I call common area space. One of the things that's important as we move into a permanent facility is to be able to build a sense of community, a sense of connection. The way this property or this space that we are looking at is configured is it gives us access in and out of the building, plenty of lobby space, plenty of place for folk to hang out. There's a very large kitchen and break area where we can do cafe, a lot of small group stuff where we could probably accommodate a good 30 people, 30, 40 people in there for fellowship and connection. We also we'll have a large area, pretty good size area for nursery, our nursery kids, and then we have two separate areas for kids, church, and youth. We've got flexibility, and the way it's set up, we can, even as the need arises down the road, use it for flex space. We can use, or multi-purpose rather, so that as it relates to thinking about developing youth church, that infrastructure is there. The rooms that our kids ministries will be in are like with kids church, are sizable enough that we have some space. Okay. The other scenario with this is the one landlord that's been willing to be flexible on some of their terms with us. So just as a little bit of backstory, because Metro Life Church only exists as a legal corporation since January 1st of this year, a potential landlord like the one we're talking with and the others we've looked at in the last 9 months or so, they don't see us as, NDIC having been around for 12, 13, 14 years, whatever the time frame has been, because of the fact that the corporation's changed, the pastors changed, and frankly, the numbers, the budget numbers, the finances, the congregation size, all that has changed. So a landlord from a business perspective is really looking at us as a new business. And if you'll remember, I mentioned to you, I think shortly, I think probably right around the time we just got into the event hall, that the Lord had spoken to my heart and said to approach everything we do in this new season as a church family as if we were a church plant, as if we were birthing a church from the beginning. And so, I know when the Lord impressed that on me, and I shared that with you at the time, but since then, the information that I've gotten back, that we've gotten, that Michelle's been hearing, that Judy and I have been hearing, confirms that from a business perspective, businesses look at our church as a new church, frankly. So any numbers that we would try to give them from last year or the year before that, or even prior, are irrelevant from a business perspective. So what that means is most churches in our situation, most landlords, what they want is, in addition to making sure our monies are relevant, and we've provided them all the financial documentation to prove our validity, our cash flow, our revenue, all those things, we've had to give them quite a bit of comprehensive financial information. And so one of the things that they want, though, is because we don't have a long track record as Metro Life Church, and we don't have a credit rating established, on a business perspective, they're looking at, okay, how are you gonna make this happen? So one of the things that they wanted originally was for me and my family, for me personally, to personally guarantee the fact that the church would that I would, if the church defaulted on rent, that I would personally be responsible for it. And for the length of the lease, and other landlords, that's common practice. From what I've learned and what we've been hearing, that's just common practice in a church in our situation. So originally my mind was closed to it, because that's a little scary for me at first, but I thought about it, prayed about it, and then they were willing to backtrack. And so what they've been willing to do is say, you know what, we'll give you the 3-year lease. They wanted 5, we told them we wanted 3. They'll give us 3 years. And the only stipulation is that they're asking me to personally guarantee the first 6 months, January through June of next year, that I would personally guarantee to make sure that the church will not default on our rent. Now, I will tell you this. We've proven to them with all of our financial reports that the church can handle the rent. The revenues are there, but they're looking they're looking at the fact that we are a new business from their perspective. And the only reason that I share that with you this evening is twofold: to give you a real picture of how the market, the real estate market, sees our church, okay? Because that kind of determines what doors open and close to us, very much so. The other thing is this, to let you know that my wife and I believe in what God is doing with this church, with you, with us, with this family. And we believe that God is opening this door to move us in this direction, to give our church family presence, stability, and to position us to grow. It's not just about making a move so we can have church. It's about making a strategic move so that we can grow. And so we've prayed about it and thought about it, and we've been willing to say, you know what, we will take that step of faith to believe that this is the direction God has for us. And so we're willing to take that step to see the door open so that the landlord has peace of mind that we're good to go, even though we've proven to them financially we can handle it. So that's what we're talking about. Now here's the practicality. We are looking at a December 1st move-in date. The process from here on out goes like this. What we're doing is we're going through, we just late this afternoon got the lease, so we've got to take a couple days to go through all the verbiage, make sure the legalese is taken care of, and then everything looks good. We feel everything looks like it should, and we have no reason to expect that it wouldn't. But until the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, that's the disclaimer that I give you. We're negotiating on it. We're looking into it. And once that is a done deal, we'll tell you, hey, it's a done deal. But we're talking about a December 1st move-in date. Okay. So we would remain at the event hall. The landlord would upgrade the facilities, do what needs to be done, carpet, paint, anything that needs to be fixed, updated. They will take care of that in the meantime. And then we would be in that building beginning December 1st. So no more event hall. One of the things that matters to me personally, my wife and I both, we talk about this frequently, is how appreciative we are of those of you who are a part of that core group of volunteers that is at the event hall every Sunday morning, super early, setting up, and you stay after church and you tear down. There is a ton, family, there's a ton of work that has to be done for us to be able to come together as a church family on Sunday mornings and worship. And there are diligent, faithful, committed men and women of God and of great character and integrity in our family, in our church, that are doing the background work, the laying the infrastructure every Sunday. And I know that takes a toll, and that is a concern for us. So one of the things that I've been saying is, God, one of the reasons we need to get in a place is so we can set up one time and leave it. So those of you who've been laboring, a labor of love to make Sundays happen, once we get in here, you can lay that burden down. And so we're excited about that, looking forward. On a personal level, that's a really big deal for us. So that's the time frame and that's the location. Here is the practicality of it. As I remind you that we were counting on having $45,000 of Lyceum deposit monies returned, and we only got $15,000. If you remember, we did the webinar in the beginning of the year to inform you of that. So had those $30,000 not been withheld, we would be sitting on banked separate aside, separate from our general fund, $45,000 that we were allocating towards move-in security deposit. So to get into a lease, to get the keys to the building, sign the lease, and get the ball rolling, we have to give the equivalent of 3 months rent, first, last security deposit, over 3 months. For us now, our rent will be $6,103 per month. That our current rents and utilities, our facilities budget right now is $3,500 to $4,000 a month, depending on any additional facilities. That's rental, that's lease, that's a renting of the event hall, that's a lease of the property on Central, and all of the utilities that go into the administrative cost of being able to do business. So by taking on this lease, we increase our rent budget by approximately $3,000 a month. I will tell you right now that based on our current revenue, that is going to be a step of faith, but we can do it. The monies are coming in now to handle the rent increase. Is it a step of faith? Absolutely. Because anytime you take on more monthly obligation, it's going to stretch your faith. But if we couldn't afford it, if we couldn't do it, I would say right now, family, this is going to be a big step of faith for us. And it is a step of faith, but we're not busting the budget to do it. But what it does do, is it adds $3,000 a month approximately to our budget for facilities. So that money's got to come from somewhere, and that money's got to come from our general revenue. So here's where this puts us. You know, without the 45,000 that we thought we would have to allocate towards moving into a new building, that means buying chairs, putting down the security deposits that I mentioned, sound, stage, lighting, all of the equipment, kids' church, some office equipment, and things that we're going to need. You know, had the full $45,000 been returned to us, we would have had it covered without having to do any fundraising or without having to tap into our general fund budget, which we need to maintain in reserves, just because it's wisdom and it's wise business sense. We don't want to empty church accounts or get really low, because church is like everything else. There are seasons when giving will be up and down a little bit. So by having monies in reserve, you're positioned to balance things out, because there's certain times of the year when giving can fluctuate. So where that leaves us is, to sign the lease, we have to give them $18,800. That's just to sign the lease. That doesn't include purchasing chairs or any of the other equipment that we're going to need to move into the new building. So the $18,800 is basically takes up everything that we had left from the Lyceum. That money, plus having to tap into our regular general operating fund a little bit, is what it will take to sign the lease. And then that means we have to begin to do some other fundraising for chairs. So I'm going to throw some information your way in terms of cost. I realize, it's 8:11. Give me 10, 15 more minutes. We'll be done. And again, remember, this is going to be on YouTube, so you can catch it anytime. Moving forward from this informational session tonight, we're going to keep talking. We're actually going to put data in your hands beginning next Sunday, September 10th. And I'll share about that in a minute. So this is not going to be the last time. This is the beginning of a conversation. We want you well informed and really clear about where our numbers are and what we need to do. So and I don't normally read from notes. So if I'm not looking at you, it's because I'm looking at some specific numbers I want to be able to give you. So our deposit money is going to be $18,800, which means, we can take Lyceum money plus a little bit out of our surplus fund and sign the lease. Okay. But what we're going to then have to do is purchase chairs and fundraise for that. So I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes about some fundraising ideas that we have that I'm going to present to you, and share my heart about that, what the vision is for moving forward, how we're going to do it, and then get that ball rolling. So I mentioned to you that the sanctuary will hold 220 chairs. At the present time, we don't need 220 chairs. It'd be nice if we had the money, we'd buy them all at one time and be done with it. That way we know, that we don't have to add to the sanctuary and do a chair program some point down the road, whether it's 6 months, a year, a couple years, whatever. But at the present time, what we've looked at is I want us to be able to have at least twice the seating capacity that we have current attending people on Sunday morning on an average, because every church growth bit of information you get, guys and information and the gurus who understand church growth in America will consistently tell you that once a sanctuary reaches 80% of seats being full, right, that at that point, if you don't have a way to, like a second service or another way to expand, your growth stops, because when it's too tight, too crowded, that's just a factor. So looking at our current situation, if we don't try to do 220 chairs, we want to go with 175 chairs up front. 175 chairs, and that cost and this includes shipping, okay? And I'll explain the details in a moment. For 175 chairs, it's going to cost us $9,625. Say, Pastor, my goodness, that's crazy. Well, hold on, let me educate you. Yeah, it's a little high, at least it sounds high. But we're talking about chairs. It breaks down, chair plus shipping, it breaks down to $53 and change. So we're rounding up to $55 a chair to include every cost associated with it, so we're out the door. The chairs we're looking at are comfortable, quality, long-term chairs. We're using a company called Bertolini Chair out of California. I have used them before. In fact, 16 years ago, this past spring, we bought chairs from them at the church I was pastoring in the Lakeland area. And my mother-in-law, God bless her, still goes there. And so I can tell you for a fact that 16 years later, the church is still using those chairs, and they're in pretty good shape because they're a quality chair. The cheapest chair, and Judy has been researching this for us since last November. She can tell you the cheapest chair that you're going to find on the market for a church sanctuary is in the upper 30s to low 40s, 39, 40, 42 bucks. And we're talking chairs that aren't comfortable, don't look good, and they don't have the quality to last long term. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be replacing chairs every 4 or 5 years. Let's do this once. Do it right, do it in excellence, and we're done with it. So here's the deal. With the chairs, that's $55 a chair, and I'm going to give you a plan for how we can accommodate that. The great news is, because the chairs are built to order, they're made to order, and they're on a 8 to 10 week time frame. We don't even need them right now. We will not order chairs to have shipped to the hub, because they ship the chairs by semi. And so what we will do is we will have them delivered to the new building once we're in it. Okay, so we're talking about an 8 to 10 week time frame. So we're not even placing an order for the chairs right now, because December 1st is still 14 weeks away. So we're talking into September, early October, that sort of a time frame before we place the chairs. When we place the order for the chairs, we put 50% down at the place of the order, and then we've got several weeks to come up with the additional 50% to take delivery on the chairs. So we have time built in, and that's to our advantage. We could do the chairs now and put down 25% of the $9,600, and then the 75% is due at a much later date when it's time for delivery. My point being is we've got time to fundraise for that, okay? But we're going to have to. We're going to have to fundraise for the chairs. Let me just throw some things at you. So in addition to the deposited chairs, which by the way is $28,000. So for the deposit to get in the building and to furnish the sanctuary, it's going to cost us $28,465, okay, approximately. So hold on to that number. And by the way, again, I'm going to give you all this information again the following Sunday. We're going to put it in writing, put something in your hand. We're going to have it in our video monitor system. So you're going to be well informed. The numbers will be before you. But in addition to that, we're going to have to make some investments in monitors for the sanctuary, video monitors for worship, presentation, kids church. Now we've got a projector system and we've got a screen, and we could use that to get by, but the building that we're in, that's not going to be a long-term solution for us. So we're looking at that. We're going to have to, at some point, upgrade some sound equipment. We're looking at everything that we've got now that we've used, either currently using at the event hall or used at the Lyceum that we have in storage, that we could use, that's quality equipment that we could use moving forward. So if we don't have to spend the money, we're not going to spend the money. We won't spend money we don't have to. The flip side of that is we're going to believe and trust God and pursue doing the best in excellence that we can, so that moving forward in this new thing God's doing, that we have what we need and that it's quality material. I've learned that if you don't buy good stuff in the beginning, you start spending more money in the long term replacing cheap stuff, especially when it comes to electronics and sound equipment. So nevertheless, so then there's some kids ministry, some kids church things we're going to need to invest in, and then a couple other areas like for kitchen and the lobby and that sort of thing. So those are some other budget issues. And so the total budget for everything, if we were factoring in kids, stage, monitor, office, some common area space, the things we're going to need to do to fill that building out, we're looking at a $42,000 budget. Now that includes the $18,800 to sign the lease, the 3 months of basically it amounts to 3 months of rent. Month first year, month the second year, month the third. Okay, so that $42,000 does include the $8,800, and it includes the $9,625 for chairs. Okay. So, Pastor, how are we going to do that? How are we going to attack it? Well, a couple of things. Remember, we've got the Lyceum money. That's about $16,000 that we have, 16, 17,000 that we have that we can allocate towards this process. Okay, immediately, without having to touch our reserves, because again, I've purposed in my heart and God's put it in my heart that we maintain a good reserve in our general fund so that we are in a healthy position financially. I believe in being generous. We're a giving church. You know that. You're a giving people. You know that. I don't believe in spending unnecessarily, but I do believe in wisdom as it relates to financial stewardship. So, you know, we don't want to say, well, we're going to tap everything out to get in the building. We're not doing that. God, we're not going to have to do that. So moving forward, here's what we're going to do. And I'm going to spend the last portion of this session talking about, okay, so how do we fundraise? That sounds like a big number. How do we get that done? So we're going to be doing three things. And again, beginning Sunday, September 10th, we're going to put this information tangibly in your hand. Every Sunday you'll have access to it. We're going to do three things. The first commitment before we get into this that I'm going to make you is I am not going to pressure you for money. We are not going to do that. It's not my style. 14 years ago, God spoke to my heart very clearly not to talk about money unnecessarily, but that when I did, it was because the time was right, the method was right, or that God had given me a word about it. And so that's one of the reasons that you hear me not talk a lot or do a lot of fundraising since I've been your pastor, because in seasons like the one we're stepping into now, when we need to talk about money, you need to be clear and confident of where it's coming from, that it's coming from a pure place from me. I don't ever want us to become a culture in our church where we are into hype and pressure or manipulation to get people to give. I don't operate that way. I don't respond to people who do operate that way. That's not how God built me. And so my commitment to you is we're not going to operate that way in this vision campaign, our vision program. Vision. How do we see God fulfill the vision of getting us in a permanent place so we can grow, so we can do all the things that we can't do now? Again, this is not just about a building. It's about having infrastructure so we can begin to make the steps necessary as a congregation and in a multitude of ministries that we can do and become everything God's called us to do and to become. So that's why I'm using the term vision and not building. This is about fulfilling the vision God has set before us. So here's what we're going to do. Three different giving opportunities. Okay. The first of which is we're going to receive one, unless God speaks to me otherwise, and I can tell you at this point, he is not. We're going to receive one vision offering Sunday, October 15th. We're going to receive, in addition to our regular tithe and offering, a special offering for the budget that I've laid before you now, for the $42,000 budget. You say, Pastor, if we've got the Lyceum money, which is basically going to cover the move-in expenses, why do we want that back? Because why is that included in the $42,000? Because if we can raise that back, do you know what that does? That makes up for having money in reserve to do the work of the ministry, and it will make up for what what the enemy thought he tried to steal from us with the remaining 30 grand that the Lyceum did not return to us. So I've set my faith that God's going to help us get that back through this process. So we're going to receive one offering, our vision offering, October 15th. It's Sunday, October 15th. It's about 6 weeks away. So we'll be talking to you more about that. In the meantime, we've got two other options that I'm going to be talking to you about. One is what we're going to call a Save a Seat program. Save a Seat. What do I mean by Save a Seat? Okay, so we are going to, if the chairs are $55 a piece in everything, that's the chair, that's shipping, and shipping, they ship them by semi. They can't FedEx or overnight the church chair. They have to ship them by semi from California to Largo. So one of the things that is incorporated in that price is the shipping. We're paying for that. We have to. So here's an option, a Save a Seat campaign. If everyone in our church gave toward the cost of one church per member of their family. For example, if you've got four people in your family, $55, that's $220 for 4 chairs. Save a Seat plus one. We ask you, as God touches your heart about this, to buy a chair. I say buy, you know what I mean. To give toward the purchase of one chair for every member of your family, plus an extra chair for a guest, for a newcomer, because we're believing God for growth. God's going to fill that sanctuary, going to fill that building. He's going to fill that house. So what we're asking you to do, if you're a family of 4, give for 5 chairs. We're going to do this. My family and I are going to do this. And the disclaimer is everything that I say to you in terms of giving, we are going to lead by example. We are partnering in this. So we're going to be doing that. And so as God touches your heart, we're actually going to be asking those of you that he speaks to give towards the specific price of a chair for every member of your family plus one. If everybody in our church does that, we would cover the cost of the chairs pretty much almost outright. Now, I realize that everybody has a different budget situation, and I get that. I'm sensitive to that, and I would never pressure you to do something you can't do or that God is not speaking to your heart or stretching your faith, provoking you to do. And I know that in this process, the Lord's going to talk to each of us individually. So that is an option, the Save a Seat program. We're going to be talking about that and putting specific details in your hand. By the way, beginning tomorrow, by this time tomorrow evening, on the website, we will have, for those of you that give online, and many of you do, we will have a place where you select what is your offering going for. We will have a vision fund option there that you can select that, and anything you give goes specifically for this project. It will not get redirected to something else. It's going towards chairs. It's going towards build out. It's going towards everything we need to do. This $42,000 budget that we have, it's going to that. So that Save a Seat campaign. Now, I realize that may be financially undoable for some. I totally respect and appreciate that. And I don't want you to feel pressured or bothered by that. So we have one other option, and this is a pretty cool option I'm going to share with you. We actually have 18 Sundays, including this coming Sunday coming up, Labor Day. We have 18 Sundays until December 31st. December 31st is the last day of this year. It's also the last Sunday of this year. And on that day, so there are 18 Sundays between now and then. If 80 people, I'm just as a number, if 80 people in our church committed to give $20 a week above your regular giving, okay, for the next 18 Sundays through the end of the year, that would be $360 per person. You take that number, okay, and if 80 people did that, you take that number, the total number for that comes out to $18,800. Right around 18,800. That would cover the cost. I'm sorry, my apologies. That number actually comes out to $28,800. So if 80 people gave $20 a week above their regular tithe and offering and did it every Sunday through Sunday, December 31st, that would raise $28,800. Do you know what that would do? That would replenish the cost of our chairs. That would cover all of our move-in cost, our deposit money, the $18,800 for that, and would also cover the $9,625 for 195 chairs. So we've got these 3 different giving opportunities. Some may be able to participate in all 3. Some may only be able to do 1 or 2. But at a minimum, if 80 people in our church committed to give $20 a week above your regular giving, beginning this Sunday, Labor Day Sunday, September 3rd, through December 31st, 18 Sundays, $20 a week above your regular giving, we would, at the end of that time, have raised all of the money that we have to expend to buy those chairs and to do the move-in monies. So what does that then do? That then helps us recoup so that we can take the monies that we've had to spend out, that was old Lyceum money, and then we can allocate that money back towards the kids' church budget, the sound budget, the monitors, the other things that we're going to have to do to modernize the sanctuary. I want, and I'm believing God, and I know He's going to give us this, the ability that in that, when people walk into that building, that they're not going to know they're in a building that's an office complex, that there's going to be a wow factor, an excellence factor, and that where we worship, where we do the work of the kingdom, where we connect in fellowship and build people in the faith of Jesus, is an environment and an atmosphere of excellence that looks great, feels great, is comfortable, and has a wow factor to it. We've got a lot of things going for us as a church, and in terms of the substance of the Spirit and the quality of who you are as a people, who we are as a family, and the vision God has set before us. And so I know that by working this particular plan, that's how the vision is going to come to pass. So here's what we're going to do. Beginning Sunday, September 10th, we're going to actually have 3 different commitment cards available at the Connection Center. I'm going to remind you this again that Sunday, but I want you to have this in the forefront of your thinking. So between now and then, be asking the Lord, Lord, what do you want me to do? And I want to just lay this before you. Ask God, what would you have me do? Again, I'm not going to pressure you. Nobody's going to know, other than for administrative purposes, what your commitment is. And I'm going to ask you that Sunday, September 10th, to take a commitment card. If it's that you're committed to giving a specific offering amount in the vision offering on October 15th, if it's the Save a Seat program and you want to purchase the price, you give for the purchase of the price of a chair for every member of your family. And if you can't do that and you can only do 1 or 2 chairs, just do what you can. No pressure on you. Just do what you can. Something's better than nothing. We can't all do the same thing, but everybody can do something. So we're going to have a commitment card for the vision offering. We're going to have a commitment card for the offering for the Save a Seat program. And then we're going to have a $20 a week for 18 weeks. It's a $360 above and beyond commitment through the end of this year. We're going to have a commitment card for that. Whichever you feel touched and provoked in your heart to give toward this vision program, to use, we'll just ask you to take one of those cards. You'll fill it out. You'll turn it back in. And that way we need to, because we need to, on a practical level, administratively, we need to be able to track what our projected revenue for this specific project is going to be, as well as to begin to track, okay, how much is coming in versus how much has been committed. Because one of the things that we're beginning to do now is, because again, we're going about a $3,100 a month increase in our facilities budget. We're beginning now the process of taking those monies and banking them, setting them aside. So we want to walk in financial wisdom in this whole process. And so that's why God had really just kind of honed my thinking in on those 3 different giving options that you have, so that everybody can do something without anybody feeling pressured or overwhelmed. Do what you can do, and God's going to do some great and miraculous things. So again, just to recap, we are negotiating a lease for 6,975 square foot worship, kids, church, office, common area space, connection space, youth, and a lot of places. In fact, one of the cool things about this building is it even has a boardroom where we can actually do some small group Bible study stuff to accommodate some people. We got a lot of flexibility here, and I'm really excited about that. So at the corner of 126th Avenue and Starkey Road, it says Largo, but it's actually in unincorporated Pinellas County. You know the blessing of that? The city of Largo, if it had been in Largo, we'd have had to go before them to get permission through a public hearing for them to rezone the property so we could meet there for church. But because it's not in the city of Largo, we don't have to jump through that hurdle. We don't have to deal with a zoning issue. So that's a big plus in our favor. So that's the location. It is 5 to 7 minutes west of the event hall on 126th Avenue. The reason I say 5 to 7 is, you live in Pinellas County, it depends on whether or not you hit green lights or red lights. So, but it's practically 3 lights west of there. So it's pretty much in the same area we're in now, just a few minutes west. And we're looking at a December 1st move-in date. And we're beginning the process now of fundraising for the vision that God has set before us. And so as we move into the month of September, again, we'll have the commitment cards and be talking about this again in service Sunday, September 10th. But I wanted to lay this information out to you, give you a complete plan, why we are where we are. Every door that we've tried to open in St. Pete, Pinellas Park, east of the event hall over towards kind of northeast St. Pete, the physical Tampa Bay, Ulmerton Road and Roosevelt, all in that area, Feathers, all of those doors have closed. The doors in St. Pete, we were looking exclusively in St. Pete in the winter, and all of those doors closed, and every door is closed except for this one, and every box has been checked. The restrooms, it's the best case scenario for restrooms that we've been able to find. So even that we feel good about. So it gives us room to grow. It doesn't bust our budget, but it does stretch our faith. Yet at the same time, it gives us the ability to serve and lead and love people where we are, as well as room to grow. And we're only locked in for 3 years with some options after that. So I feel good about this place. Trust me, Michelle will tell you, we have worked this from every possible angle with due diligence. We've worked very hard on this property, and every other door but this one has closed. And the landlord has even given us favor with some things that he had required in the beginning of negotiations that they've been willing to be flexible on. So the hand of God is in this, and I thank you for walking in this journey with us. You've been willing to embrace me and my family as your pastors late last year. At the same time that you were experiencing a pastor change, we went through this situation with the Lyceum. And I know that had to be a major disappointment for a lot of people. But you know what you did? You opened your hearts, you trusted God, and you've received me and my family as part of your family. Now we're one family, and you've been willing to endure the inconvenience of the event hall because you believe in what God is doing, his hand of purpose on our family, or church family, on the Metro Life church family that God has put together. So God's set this door before us, and we're believing that he's going to empower us with everything we need to walk through it. And I just want to say thank you for your openness, your willingness to make this journey, to hang in there, to be consistent and faithful. You are good people. I really want you to know that. I have been so humbled, sincerely, and overwhelmed by the level of integrity and character and commitment and faithfulness and trust and faith that you and your families have been willing to show me as your pastor. And as we've walked through an inconvenient season, you've been willing to walk the walk. And that speaks a lot about the kind of people you are, the kind of people God has put together as a family, and the kind of purpose he's set before us. So I want to say the last thing I tell you tonight, any questions that you have, specific questions that maybe we didn't cover this evening, I'm happy to talk to you. I've got an open door policy, so I'm happy to talk to you about anything that if you want clarity about, or if we didn't discuss it this evening. I've tried to fit a lot in here without going too long, and I really need to wrap this up. So we love you, and if you've got any specific questions, please reach out to the office, and we'll make time to talk, and you will be hearing more details and specifics. Once we nail down the lease terms and it's a done deal, once that happens, we'll let you know. We're not going to keep that a secret or a surprise. And so look forward to seeing what God does as he moves us into our new thing. One last reminder to our online faith community, those of your extended family, friends and partners, you stand with us in faith, you stand with us in prayer. you're not part of the local congregation, but yet you're connected financially. You're connected in prayer. You're connected relationally. Thank you for that. And as God touches your heart, we want to encourage you to be part of this as well. What your investment and seed into what God is doing with us brings return into your life. And those of you who are on here tonight, you know that because you're already doing it. You're already part of the investment financially of this house. And I want to say thank you for that. Thank you for being willing to partner with a church family that's even in a different city than what you're in. For some of it's a different country. I want to thank you for that and tell you that we pray God's multiplied blessing back into your life. Metro Life family, Sunday morning again, 10 a.m. for our picnic. You're going to get an email, voicemail message system sent out to you tomorrow. So by all means, let's come together Sunday morning and have a wonderful time. This is the first Sunday of the month. So please remember, we're not having traditional service. Please remember to continue to be faithful in your giving in the Lord's tithe and your offering. You can do that giving online at metrolifechurch.us. If you don't give online and you normally give in real time during worship, come prepared Sunday. We'll be receiving our regular offering then. If you're not able to make it, you can't do that. Make it up next Sunday, and God's going to prove himself. I know he is. I love you. Thank you for allowing me to share this vision update tonight. I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to what God moves us into. And so iChurch will be back to regular schedule and material next Wednesday night at 7:30, and look forward to seeing all of our extended family then. Local family, see us Sunday morning at Largo Central. Is it Largo Central Park or Central Park Largo? Just don't go to Central Park in New York and you'll be good. But I look forward to a wonderful time. Bring a side dish, bring a friend, bring a chair, bring some sunscreen, and let's pray that it doesn't rain this Sunday. We love you. Be blessed. Have a great evening, and we'll see you Sunday morning, 10 a.m.